someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, offensive lineman of the year," and I was like, "What's up, man?" You know, I just thought
you didn't even know.
and and then somebody said, "Hey, congratulations," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Oh, they posted the all conference team in the locker room. You're the offensive lineman of the year in the conference," and I was like,
Yeah.
Quit, don't do that to me." Like, you know, I was stunned,
Really?
like stunned, not even stunned to be. I was stunned to make the first team. Like I was, it wasn't even in my. I hadn't even thought about it. People are like, "Man, you're offensive lineman of the year. You might make All-American." I was like, "What? Like that's
right.
I'm just trying to play."
What's up, everybody? This is Coach Love with Recruit Oklahoma, also known as ROK. So today I have a guest that's a pretty good friend of mine, and so I will just get right into it. As an offensive lineman, this guy was one of the most decorated players in the University of Central Oklahoma's history. Before his time at UCO, he earned all football awards such as All-State, Big All-City, Oil Bowl, All-Star Selection, as well as a football scholarship to Oklahoma State University. After a brief stint at OSU, he made the transition to Central Oklahoma, where history was made. He has been the only player from the Putnam City School District to ever appear on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. While dominating as a Bronco, he was the Daktronics All-West Region selection all 3 seasons. And in 1998, he was also named the Lone Star Conference Lineman of the Year. He was named to the Oklahoma City All-Century State College football team. He was named to the All-Century UCO team, which features the best players in 100 years of UCO football. He also qualified for the NCAA Indoor and Outdoor National Championships in the shot put and discus throw. Let's welcome to the ROK Podcast 3-time NCAA All-American and UCO Hall of Famer, John Fitzgerald.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm just happy to be here. It's great to see you. I'm excited to chop it up a little bit.
Chop it up, yeah, man. I hope I didn't leave anything off, but
most of that's I'm just glad you read all the stuff I wrote for you. You know, some of it's true, but no, yeah, man. It's funny when you hear it back. You're like, man, that's a lot of stuff, but it's been a lot of years. So, but it's cool to be here.
Yeah, one thing you don't hear a lot is a 3-time All-American. It's you may hear maybe just All-American 1 year. Rarely you hear a 2-time All-American, but 3-time All-American. I mean, that's crazy.
You know, it's something that it's funny when you think back on it. I had no thought. I mean, that was my first year to even start in '98. I was a sophomore at UCO, and we had a great team. We went undefeated, and we had 2 backs rush for over 1,000 yards, and so that's pretty rare. Yeah. And so Reggie Donner and Ryan Logan, shout out to those guys. They were outstanding players. Yeah. And so, I think the national folks, they go, well, there's got to be an offensive lineman that gets some honors, right? If they got 2 1,000-yard backs. It was me. And then as an offensive lineman, the next year, I'm sure they're like, oh, UCO's good again. I remember this guy, so I'll vote for him. So you're I was a beneficiary of being on some good teams and having some really good running backs and good offensive players to block for. And then it's just kind of name recognition, I think, at that point. So, but it's cool, man. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're from reading what I've seen, you're the only Bronco to do it since UCO joined the NCAA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a big deal, man. So
yeah, it's fun. UCO's got a good football history. There's some guys that did it in the NAIA, So UCO joined the NCAA around 1990,
So what are you up to these days? Just
my ideal body weight if I was about 12 feet tall. No, I'm just getting old, man. Just raising a family and working and enjoying life, man. I got a daughter that's a freshman. I just finished her freshman year at Oklahoma State.
Okay, good.
And my son is going to be a senior at Edmond Memorial this next school year. So, we're close to being empty nesters, but
me too.
just working medical device, industry and trying Trying to get back in shape a little bit.
Yeah, man. You and me both. Shoot. Are you still a color analyst for
Yeah,
UCO football?
yeah. I've done that
Still
for I think 14 years now, and
Okay.
I'll be doing it again this season. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So man, let's go back to the early days of John Fitzgerald, little Johnny. So man, where were you born in? Where were you born?
So I was actually born in Wichita,
Okay.
but I mean I've lived here since I was about 2. So Oklahoma City. Yeah,
you're Oklahoma.
No,
guy.
yeah, Northwest Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Ski Island, Warwick. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. You have any siblings?
Yeah, I got a sister that I graduated in 95. She graduated in 98. She was a good basketball player at PC North, good track. She actually placed in the discus twice at state, but she was like half the size of the discus throwers. Like she was a gymnast. She was a real good gymnast growing up, and so she was just strong. And then we taught her the technique and
form.
Yeah, so she was so that was fun.
Well, how was your mom and dad or picture?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It couldn't be more supportive. You know, just couple folks that if I wanted to try a sport, they got me involved in it. And then as I started to kind of pick the sports I wanted to try and excel at, they gave me every opportunity, you know, to try and do so. So they're fantastic, and they're just enjoying retirement and you know, enjoying their grandkids and doing good.
Were they athletes?
Yeah. So my dad was a good football player in Wichita. He actually went to Wichita State. It's funny, Bill Parcells was his freshman coach at Wichita State.
Okay.
Yeah, so in 65. But him and a bunch of friends, they actually transferred across town to Friends University, which is an NAI school up there in Wichita.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of fun playing there. He's actually in the Hall of Fame up there at Friends now. He's in the Hall of Fame at his high school. So, yeah, he had a good career. And then my mom was actually a speed skater, like roller skating. Yeah, and so she competed in that. So she was athletic in her own right.
Have you seen her do it? You haven't seen the video?
I've seen video. Yeah, yeah. And I think when I was little, I got to go to some, but I don't really have any memory of it, you know. But yeah, I've seen some video. So
well, that's cool. Did you play? How many sports did you play? I know you mentioned any sports you wanted to try. They supported you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How many did you try out?
Like as a kid, I mean, all like basketball, briefly football, baseball. I was on the swim team at the Greens Country Club here right down the road. I was actually a diver. I was the all-city runner-up in diving, which I know nobody can. And I was probably, the judges were probably like, man, he didn't splash all the water out of the pool, so we'll give him a high score. So yeah, but that at some point my body betrayed me if I wanted to be a diver. So that wasn't in my future. But yeah, I did that. And then wrestled, you know, in high school, and then track and field, you know, all the way through college too. So I was kind of into a lot of it, but really track and football were kind of where I excelled.
Okay, so you were just a competitor. You were anything?
Just it's fun, man. Sports is fun, and it was always something. I wasn't always the best. There's no question about that. I mean, it just was, but it was something that it was just fun to do. And growing up, you just, you know, we didn't have the select teams and the things like that, right? We just grew up playing with our friends from the neighborhood and stuff. So it was cool to play with your elementary school buddies and go, you know, run to the snack bar and get your free drink after the game and, you know, all that stuff, right? So it was just good times.
So you mentioned, you know, your childhood buddies and friends and stuff and playing with them. Were you always bigger than most of your friends, taller?
Yeah. I've always been a big dude. Like, it's funny. My son started for Memorial's wrestling team as a 9th grader. He started for the varsity at 120 pounds. Okay. And I weighed 120 pounds in 4th grade. So, so we're not built the same. So I always a big kid, but a real late bloomer. And so like I was not, you know, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but like, I didn't start football games in junior high. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was soft. Like it took me a while to grow into my body and get it figured out. Yeah.
During your childhood, if you can remember, who were some of the people that like pushed you or inspired you to play sports, or did you just kind of just wanted to get out there and just?
Yeah, I'm sure it was just my parents putting me in stuff early, because I don't think anybody like, I don't think kids go, I want to play T-ball. I think their parents put them in T-ball. You know what I mean? Like, they're just too young. They don't even know what it is, right? And so I think my parents put me in stuff and got me exposed to it, and then I just had fun with it. But they've always been my biggest supporters. They've always been my biggest advocates. You know, the folks that have financially helped me, you know, go to camps or go get private coaching or whatever the case may be, you know, in track and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're definitely the ones that kind of kept me going.
Do you remember any of your childhood coaches?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of them.
Which one did you have the most fun with? Like,
yeah, that's a good question, man. You know, I had a lot of fun with all the teammates. The coaches were all good. Yeah. I don't know that I have a little league coach that I still like carry with me today.
Yeah.
But you know, played basketball for a guy named Doug Hartwig. His son Sam was a good little basketball player at PC West around the time we were in, right after the time we graduated high school.
Okay.
Terry Baumeister was my little league baseball coach most of my career. He was a good man, is a good man. Kenny Bennett was my T-ball coach. He played for the Yankees. Okay. So, you know, Kenny had some experience, and we were close with their family. But no, I mean, they all no bad experiences with any of those folks really. Just you know, I just enjoyed playing with all the guys from the neighborhood.
As you get into high school, you attended, like we mentioned, Putnam City North High School.
Yeah.
And I remember, I know, you know, being at OSU, Oklahoma State, we I know there was Trent Fisher came from PC North.
Yep.
I can't remember any other guys that came from PC North.
There were guys after me, like Zach Aiken was PC North.
Okay, right. Okay.
Shane Kinnon was PC North.
I don't know why I thought Zach was PC West.
Kirk Milligan was PC North.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah. So there were some guys that came after me.
Okay.
Trent was the only guy up there that would have been on the team like when we got there.
Right.
That was from PC North. And Trent was a stud, man.
I
I grew up like – I said this. Trent and I had the good fortune of being inducted into the Putnam City Athletics Hall of Fame, and we got inducted in the same year, so we were at the same ceremony. And I said this in my speech, like I was at Hefner Junior High, and Trent was like Superman. Like we looked up to Trent, you know, because PC North was winning. You know, they won the state title his senior year. Yeah. He was quarterback, DB, kicker, like he did it all. And he was a stud, man. So and then. It's funny, Aiken and my sister dated for like 3 years. Okay. So, I mean, he was like my brother-in-law for, you know, a while. That didn't work out, but we were really close with the Aiken family, you know, for a time. And Sally and Harold are both gone now, which is sad, but Zach's a good guy and grew up in the same neighborhood with Shane Kinnon, like literally a street over. So, yeah, I know a lot of those guys really well.
Okay. Have you seen Zach lately?
Haven't seen him in a while. I think the last time I saw him, my wife was working at Chesapeake, and I played in an intramural basketball league up there, and we played basketball against each other. I don't remember what his connection was up there, but we played against each other. But we don't see each other a lot. But I think he's doing good. I see his commercials on TV sometimes for the carpet store. You know, he took over his dad's carpet store. Okay. Tim Sidness does the commercials with. Timmy's he's like a commercial star. Yeah,
man,
so,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I
gotta check the boys out.
You got to watch like Channel 4 News at like 4:00. You know, that's their advertising demographic.
I see. I trained with a little bit with Oso Po guy.
Yeah.
And his son came to train with us. So when I saw him, I said, "You look familiar." Yeah, and of course I see Zach in the stand. What's up?
Okay.
So I got to meet him and everything. But his son is a nice little athlete. From you know, just training him a few times.
Yeah.
Tall, lean, and because
Zach. They're an athletic. I mean, Harold played for the Chargers. You know, Zach's dad played for Oklahoma State. So Zach was a good basketball player in high school. Yeah. Like Zach was a good athlete.
We played a little bit in intramurals.
Yeah.
Got a little shot.
Yeah.
As a freshman at Putnam City North, did you come in just playing?
I was a freshman at Hefner Junior High because we went to ninth grade at the junior high.
Oh, okay.
And then when I was a junior at PC North was the first year it became a 4-year high school.
Okay.
So,
gotcha.
But no, I didn't even start for the junior high team in ninth grade. Like I was, you know, like I said, I was just kind of
late bloomer.
Yeah. And I'd never played football really.
Okay.
So I was just trying to figure it out. And I actually started the first game of ninth grade as a defensive lineman, but I bruised my sternum. They kept running traps. We had never been taught what they were, or like, and so I was like coming through free and then just getting lit up by a pull. Yeah, and I hurt my sternum anyway. So I sat out the next week, and then I never got my starting position back. So, but yeah, but I probably maybe didn't deserve it either. There were guys that were just bigger and stronger and faster. At that age, and then in high school is where my body kind of caught up with everybody else's, right?
Okay. Yeah. So as a Panther, and you're getting your playing time, you've come into your body and everything like that. Do you have any memorable game moments that pops out in your mind right now?
Yeah, I mean, just we had some good teams at PC North, and so when I was a sophomore, now I wasn't playing. I was playing JV, but we were ranked number 1 in the state. We were 8-0, I think. We went to Midwest City. They were also ranked high, and we got down 21-0 in the first quarter. I mean, like a pick six and some turnovers deep in their territory, and we came back. We just started running our fullback and our tailback, and we came back and won the game 31-21. So now we're 9-0, still number 1 in the state. And then the next week we played UConn, and for those that were around, Mike Little had been the head coach at Putnam City North the year before, 91, and they went 14-0 and won the state championship. UConn was 0-10 that year. In between 91 and 92, Little left and went to UConn. Now we're playing them in the last game of the season, the next season, and all of a sudden they're 8-1. So they go from winless to 8-1. They had some good players. You might remember Colin Rosenberg played at OU, and Jason Jacoby and Jody Sparks played at Tulsa. Those guys were seniors in that UConn class. And we go to overtime, 10th game of the season. We're undefeated. They got 1 loss. And they turn the ball over. They take the ball first, and they turn it over. So all we got to do is get a field goal. Well, we muff the snap, and we don't get the kickoff. So we go to double overtime. They score, and we don't. We lose. And so we finished 9-1, and people were standing in the end zones. Like, it was really crowded. It was a fun. It was a memorable game anyway. And then my junior year was probably our best team. Like, we were pretty good that year, but we lost in the quarterfinals to Lawton. We beat them 32-9 in the regular season, and then we went down to their place and lost by like 5 points. So that was a disappointing end of that season.
Man.
My senior year, our senior class wasn't just loaded with talent. And we had a really good junior.
Did you play with Boomer?
Yeah.
What position did he play?
Boomer was a defensive back. He played safety.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So and he like returned punts for us.
Okay.
He was a quarterback in junior high for us.
Okay.
But,
that was one guy I remember that seeing him on our remember the Friday Land paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I remember seeing
that's
him
how
on
we got to. That's like our social media from back then.
Right.
Like, that's how I knew who. Well, and you guys you and Willie and stuff were always in the Oklahoman too. But but like that's how you knew, like, oh, that guy goes to Cassidy, that guy goes to John Marshall, that guy goes to Heritage Hall, because you get that paper. But so but our team we were like 6-4 my senior year. We're the only team in the school's history that had a winning record and didn't go to the playoffs. Like, it was a tough district. We had Midwest City in our district who won state that year, and but memorable game from that year is we played Edmond North in their first game ever. Remember, they opened up. That was their first. They opened up in our junior year, but they all played football at Memorial because they didn't have seniors at North. And then so when Kelly Gregg, Tabor LeBlanc, their senior year, that was Edmond North's first football team. And we ran the ball up and down the field on them, but couldn't get it in the end zone. And we kicked a field goal with like 30 seconds left in the game to beat them 9-7. Like, it was a terrible game, but it was an exciting last-second win. So that's one that kind of stands out.
I mean, you got Putnam City and you got PC West. I would imagine one of those will be your biggest rivals, or was there another school that
I assume that rivalry throughout time is probably just like, who are the two best teams, right? Like, it's probably so Putnam City was always pretty bad when we were in high school. So we beat them all 3 years. They weren't that good. They had some good athletes. They just didn't have a great team. So PC West was definitely but even like my sophomore year, we killed PC West, and it wasn't much of a rivalry. But then our junior year, they beat us, and I don't think they were. I think we were favored, and they beat us, and so that was like, oh. And then our senior year, West was pretty good, and so that became a bigger game. Plus, Billy Stone, right? Billy had been with us since kindergarten, and played at PC North. But his senior year, he transferred to West.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so we were playing against Billy for the first time. So it was but they beat us. They beat us 21-0.
Wow.
They had a really good defense. I don't know if you remember. They played Midwest City, who went undefeated in one state, and I think I'm making this, like, I may not be right on this, but the score was like 9-6 or something like that, like the final score. Like the Midwest City couldn't, score a bunch of points on them because they had a good. I mean, they had Billy, they had Zach Warner, they had Bryce Taylor, who went to Pittsburgh State. They had Kendall Zelny, who was a good player. They had, I'm forgetting, Mark DeJuice, who was a defensive back that went to Pittsburgh State. Joe Griffin was maybe the All-City Defensive Player of the Year. I don't remember. He was a linebacker. Rashad Browning was a good defensive back, track state champion in the hurdles. They had a lot of good athletes on their defense. I'm forgetting people too.
Yeah, so. I just remember Billy and Timmy because they came to Old State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Timmy, I could tell some. I know you can tell some stories about.
Hey,
Timmy
Tim's
too.
going into the Putnam City Hall of Fame this year. Two-sport All-Stater because he was a soccer All-Stater at PC West, and then he got some mention on like All-City basketball and stuff. He was a 3-sport starter and obviously a great kicker. So he's going into the Hall of Fame at Putnam City District.
I know he could hoop a little bit.
Yeah.
How was with your squad? How was the team chemistry? I mean, pretty.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's just probably like a lot of high school teams. You grow up with those guys, so that's just your boys, and you have fun with them. There's some folks that don't get along, right? But that's going to be the case always. But yeah, our chemistry, we didn't have any problems at North. We had a lot of fun on and off the field, and it just. Those are times that are special. You look, you don't realize it when you're going through it, and then you look back on it, and you're like, man, those were good times.
Right. When during the games, so at your junior and senior year, like kind of what was your playing weight? I know you're 6'5".
So junior year I was like 250.
Okay.
6'5", 250, and then by my senior year I was like 265 to 275, somewhere in that range. So and then college, bigger than that, but so
did you have any guys like talking noise when they came up to the line of scrimmage?
Probably. I don't remember any specific things that were said, right? But
I'm not coming. You 6'5", 250. I'm not coming up talking noise.
I remember Tabor LeBlanc told me that because we played them first game of the season, and I threw the discus against Tabor all through school, so Tabor and I were always around each other. And I remember he told me later in life that him and Kelly, I was a captain and they were captains, and we came out for the handshake, and I had the cowboy collar on and the whole, and he said he remembered telling Kelly like, man, Fitz got big, like, but just what you look like doesn't mean nothing, So, there were guys that that surely talked. I didn't talk much because I value my oxygen. I was just trying to breathe in between plays, So I was kind of a quiet guy on the field. And that's not to say I never said anything, but I was kind of quiet. But I do. Those two guys, Kelly and Tabor, they're, Tabor. I mean, they're funny guys. They're good dudes.
They always
when we played them, they talked, but it was like stuff to try to make you laugh.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like you were in a back alley fight. It was like, hey, Fitz is. He looks like he's gonna pull. Fitz is pulling, like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they knew me, so that it was all directed at me.
Exactly.
But it was all fun, man. Those
Timmy, those
dudes.
boys. I mean, I don't think there was one point in time where they were ever. From my interaction with them at O State, I don't remember them ever being serious.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was out in the club or on the football field. I mean, Tabor walks on tippy toes. Him and Kelly kind of just walk on tippy toes. I wish I could have played with Kelly Gregg too, but
Kelly swerved everybody because I don't know if you remember this, but when he was going to make it, and I still give him crap about this to this day. So our sons wrestled together. Kelly and I see each other all the time.
Yeah,
and he went on Channel 5 News when we were seniors to announce his commitment on like the 10 o'clock news.
Okay,
and he said. And OSU had already gotten commitments. Tabor had already committed. I think RW had already committed. Obviously you guys, and so so OSU had kind of, there was some momentum with that recruiting class, and kind of shifting things a little bit. And I think Schnellenberger being at OU probably had some stuff to do with that, right? So, but Kelly said, I'm going to announce my commitment, and I'm excited to say I'm going to Oklahoma University. And nobody says Oklahoma University. It's University of Oklahoma. Or it's Oklahoma. So when he said Oklahoma, you thought state, and then it was like, man. Yeah, but Kelly was a good player, man.
Man, he was awesome.
Yeah.
How many years did he play in the league?
11 or 12, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, like one of the shortest dudes, just killing it.
Killing it. And I mean, Ray Lewis said that, I heard an interview with him where he said Kelly Gregg was the reason that he was the player he was, because Kelly kept people off of him. Yep. So, just outstanding.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about recruiting for you. So like, how was your recruiting? How many offers do you remember?
Yeah. So I actually started, the first recruiting letters I got were for track when I was a junior, for throwing. And then when I was a senior, because it's so different now, as you know, recruiting, and especially now. I mean, even 5 years ago it was way different, but now it's even crazier because of NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff. But I was not on anyone's radar coming into my senior year football-wise. So I would have, like, if this was 2010, I would have never signed with Oklahoma State, because their recruiting class would have been full by the time anyone noticed me. I'd have been a Missouri State guy or a Stephen F. Austin or, something like that, just because I was so late to the game. But fortunately back then, teams would come in and pick guys up late, and they would say, hey, they would say, we can look at this guy, we can turn him into a ball player, kind of thing. So I started getting some notice when I was a senior, and it was fun, man. I loved getting to go to the games for free. We'd go to the OU games, OSU games, and that was fun, man. I enjoyed that process. So I actually visited Michigan.
Did you?
So me and Casey Bookout, you remember Casey? Casey's one of my best friends for life, and we visited Michigan in December of our senior year. But Les Miles was the offensive line coach at Michigan.
Yeah.
But we didn't know this. Okay. He was already in the process with OSU.
Coming to Ohio State, yeah.
So I think he was bringing OSU recruits to Michigan, using to get to know them.
Okay.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, because we come back from Michigan. That was a fun trip, man. That was really cool. That was the first time I was kind of like starstruck, because we were walking through the dorms, and they were like, "Oh, this is our running back Tim Biakabatuka," and I was like, "I've been watching that dude on TV,"
right.
So that was a cool trip, but no offer. Came home and didn't expect an offer, honestly. Like, I thought it was just cool to get to go, you know.
Yeah.
And like a week or two later, I get called out of class, and Les is in my coach's office at PC North, and he was like, and I was like, "What's Michigan doing here?" Yeah. And he goes, "I'm going to be the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach at Oklahoma State." Okay. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to OSU, and so I was really excited about that. And so I took my visit to OSU. I think we were on the same visit.
Yeah.
I think we were.
Yeah, we were on the same class. Yeah.
Were you? I mean, like, Timmy was there, and Cato was there.
Tim,
yeah. Anyway, so
I know we had talked about seeing our jerseys in the locker room.
Yeah. That was cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know now they do the whole like photo shoot. And you put them on. They told us we couldn't. You couldn't do that back then. But and they were the black jerseys too, because that's what OSU had been wearing.
Yeah.
And when I saw that with my high school number on, I was like, "Oh, that is so cool."
I gotta be here.
I wish I had a photo of it. Nobody had.
I think you texted me one time.
Asked you if you did.
To find it. I was like, I don't have any.
I thought somebody whose parents might have been there might have taken a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I texted Timmy too, because I remember his parents were there. Yeah. My parents didn't go. I promise you, if my mom would have been there, she'd have took a picture.
My
of it.
mom didn't go either. I think me and Willie went on the same.
Yeah. Yeah, Anthony Davis was there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they offered at that visit, and I committed. And Bob said, "I don't want to hear about you taking visits anywhere else. I'll pull this off. I'll pull the offer." And that's where I wanted to go. So I was like, okay. So I had visits scheduled to Wyoming, New Mexico, and Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I just canceled them.
Okay.
And I was like, because we were Kelly and Tabor and I were supposed to go to Wyoming together, and then we were going to go snowmobiling.
Yeah.
Tabor and I canceled. Kelly still went. He was like, yeah, it was fun. But, Kelly he was on a little different level, I felt like.
Man,
but yeah, we didn't go. So
that's kind of funny that you mentioned Bob Simmons saying, because he was at Colorado before he came to State.
Yeah.
So that was my original commitment.
Okay.
Going to Colorado.
Okay.
And then when he came to State as a head coach, and I went on my visit, I don't want you visiting anybody else. If you're going to commit, you're going to stay. I'm like, okay. So I mean, I don't know any better. I'm a 17, 18-year-old kid. Just came to my house, and him and Tim Reynolds and
it was Reynolds when it was Pat, right? And then Johnny Barr. For me, it was Reynolds, and then Johnny Barr took over. Yeah, it wasn't hard for me to agree to not take more visits because I didn't want him to pull my scholarship. I was excited to have it.
Yeah,
so so I was good with it.
I remember I watched the other night that when I knew I was going to have you on. I watched the Oil Bowl roster when we My name is Sean. Sean Love. I'm from Oklahoma City. I play wide receiver. I'm going to Oklahoma State. I'm like, man, that sounds so corny.
You put a bunch of 18-year-olds in front of a TV camera that haven't really done that before. I watch like Jermaine Bordeaux hopping around and talking with that microphone.
Jermaine Bordeaux,
yeah.
So did you end up playing with Bordeaux at the UCO?
Yeah, I did.
Him and Justin came.
Yeah. Justin was there in 99 and 2000, which were my last 2 years, and Bird came in 2000.
Yeah, Bird, boy, that dude was funny as I don't know, get out. I mean,
he was always fun to be around, and he still is.
Yeah.
He still is. And, he had some...
got in a little trouble.
Yeah. I went and visited him once.
I didn't get to visit him.
When he was in, and he was the same guy. His spirits were high, and he was, just the... I imagine he was the mayor of any facility he was in. You know what I mean?
I'm like, dude, he would call me from prison.
Yeah, same.
And, I said, dude, you probably got comedy shows every night up in that thing. Just, because I know probably everybody liked him, and and he was already swole, so ain't nobody messing with him.
Yeah. Oh, he was. I remember we played them in basketball my senior year. I didn't play basketball, but I went to the game. We played PC North played Lawton, and he was playing basketball, and that was the first time I'd maybe seen him up close. Mm-hmm. I knew who he was, and I knew he was. Yeah. But it was maybe the very first game, so recruiting hadn't really, the visits and stuff hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
And there were dudes talking trash to him from our student section. I was like, man, you guys might want to stop.
Yeah, man. The first time I met Bird was it was during All-State Week.
Yeah.
When it was at UCO.
Yeah.
And didn't really know him. I just knew he was big as hell.
Yeah.
And then I heard he was going to O-State. I'm like, okay, cool, shoot. So kind of got to know him. He came and hung out with us. I think he was the only kid from Lawton that was on the team.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out with us. We go to McDonald's, and he didn't have any money with him. So, he go to the counter and just and this is the first time I've realized this dude is funny as hell. He says, so let me get some napkins, some water, some of them ketchups over there, because everything is free he wanted to get. Yeah. So I'm like, this dude is funny. I said, you need some money, man?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
But from then on, he was my suite mate.
Oh, okay.
So it was me and me and Willie on one side,
right,
and Terrence Richardson and Jermaine Burton on the other side. I mean, so you had to know it was parties,
nonstop.
Not parties, but
I know
was
what
just
you're
people.
saying.
Either he had girls, it was just music, we'd dance.
It was the place to be, nonstop.
Yeah. So
him and Benny at the Oil Bowl together. Him and Benny were. They were hilarious.
Okay, so Benny was my roommate at the Oil Bowl.
Okay.
So he broke his dang leg or something.
Did he get hurt?
Yeah, because we went out on the town and it was the Wichita Falls.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he had to stay in the hotel because he broke his leg that game.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
My roommate was Clinton Wilburn.
Oh God.
From Douglas.
Dude, that's a different animal.
So I had wrestled Clinton that year, so I already knew a little bit about him, but.
Man,
we had curfew in the Oil Bowl, right? Coaches would come to the room at 10:30, whatever time it was.
Yeah.
And he was never back. Never. And they were like, hey, if you don't be lying to us or you'll both get sent home. And so I was scared to death. I don't want to get sent home but I didn't want to rat him out either. Yeah. So every night I would turn on the shower in the bathroom and shut the bathroom door. Yeah. And they'd come to the door and I'd be like, Clint's in the shower. Yeah. And they'd be like, all right.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
That dude was a different animal. He was He went to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And
Played some as a freshman too. Yeah. But then he ended up coming to UCO.
Did he? Okay.
In 2000, but he was, he was 400 pounds. Like he was huge.
Yeah.
And he didn't end up lasting. I think there's maybe some other stuff going on, whatever. But he came for like 2 days.
Do you remember when he used to do that back?
He did it he was the captain at the Oil Bowl.
Yeah,
if you watch the video, that game was on TV, and if you watch the video, the captains for the Oil Bowl were Kelly and Jason Freeman and Wilburn and then somebody else, I can't remember. And they'll go out for the coin toss, and you see Clint, and then you just see him disappear from the camera, and you see Kelly go,
like, what is he doing? And he just starts bouncing.
Yeah, he's like doing this stretch thing this quad stretch, but he's just bouncing. He did it. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this big old dude is doing this?
He was an athletic dude, but anyway. So
your recruiting process was just straightforward. Got the offer from O State and went to O State. Do you remember those 3-a-day workouts? When with that summer, I think there was our summer workouts when we first got there.
Okay.
And if I vaguely remember, I thought you were one of the guys that lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. So, and we can talk about that. I mean, this is where it gets deep, right? Because this is so. And I don't want to jump ahead if you're
that's what I was going to talk about.
We're going to talk about leaving Oklahoma State and stuff like that. So it's not really something that I've talked about too much, but I think it's good to do so because. I really wanted to go to Oklahoma State. I wanted to play for the Cowboys and wanted to play with you guys and just, was so excited. I loved going up there in the summertime and working out, running bleachers and lifting in the weight room with the veterans and running gassers when we were done and doing pass blocking drills against Javon Langford on the turf field with no pads on and him telling me he was going to break my fingers if I held him again and stuff like that. It was intimidating, but it felt good to be like in that big stadium and be a part of I'm an OSU Cowboy this. So I got to Oklahoma State. We moved there on a Thursday. We reported on a Thursday. We moved into the dorms. We had that first team meeting that night. Then Friday, we checked out our equipment, got physicals. We had to go write some English paper. I don't know if you remember that or not, but they had to figure out what English classes to put us in. So we had to write a paper to see who could write, I guess. Yeah. And then Saturday we had that first practice, and it was in the stadium. Yeah. High school recruits came to it. We did a lot of stations and stuff, and it was the first where they all were screaming at us, and I can't believe we gave you a scholarship, and just kind of setting the tone, right, on everybody. And it was a hard practice, but it was fine. And then the next day we played softball and had a cookout. You remember that?
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, we played the offense, the defense, the training staff, and the coaches. We had a softball tournament and a hot dog cookout and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we started 2-a-days and stuff on Monday, and so all the while, and it's really personal, but when I got there, one of the nights, man, I just started feeling sick. And I couldn't explain it, and I couldn't understand it, and I was laying in my bed in my dorm, and I was having chest pains, and I thought I was going to die. I really was like, what's happening? And from that point on, I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, and when I did, I couldn't keep stuff down. And Dr. Fair called me in his office after the Tuesday morning practice, and he said, "Hey, are you trying to kill yourself?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I'd lost 25 pounds.
I was going to say, you lost over 20 pounds.
Since we reported. And I mean, that's over a few days.
Yeah.
It's just all water weight, but clearly not well hydrated. Yeah. So they sent me to the infirmary on campus there, and I got some IV, fluids and stuff. And then Bob said, "Why don't you just go home for a few days and, see if you can get well?" Yeah. And I never came back.
I was going to say.
I never came back.
I looked up and never saw you again.
And so what happened is that, and what still goes on in my life is that I have severe anxiety.
Okay.
But back then, we didn't really talk about that stuff. We didn't really know what it was.
Right.
You know, if you went to a therapist, something was wrong with you. You know, you're some kind of freak or something. Like that's the you want to be macho. You want to be like and so I didn't know. I didn't understand it, and so it was hard to explain to people. So I just had to be vague and just be like whatever. So what happened then in the meantime is that I went home. I actually went to Southern Nazarene University when I left OSU.
Okay.
Because the track coach, Paul McGrady, was a great man and still a friend to this day. He said, hey, I'll pay your tuition if you want to come throw here. I was like, cool, I need to go to college, so let's do that. So I went to Southern Nazarene for 3 semesters, fall 95, spring 96, fall 96. And during that time, I was getting help. I was going to treatment. I was medicated. And I was learning how to cope with this anxiety that presented itself in what was obviously going to play D1 football and going through 2 days and moving away from home and all that stuff is a stressful situation, right? It's a lot of change, and that's where it all bubbled to the surface. And to this day, there are people that I grew up with. There's teammates from OSU. There's that just think I left because it was too hard. UCO was hard. I mean, football practice is hard, right? It was easier for me to just not come out and deny that than to say, hey, I got anxiety and I'm going to a therapist and you know what I mean? Like it was just easier just to be like, well, think what you want because I don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? So in the meantime, I'm at Southern Nazarene and I'm doing track. I'm going, I'm taking care of myself in all those areas that I needed to. And something happened in the 3rd semester there. I was playing intramural football, just messing around with some guys, and made a lot of great friends there, a lot of great people at that school. But I got thrown out of a game for pushing the quarterback after he threw the ball. It was flag football, and I pushed him down. And they threw me out of the game. And I'm not proud of this, but I started a fight with the referee. And then I drove home, and I was
like
so
a fist fight.
Yeah,
Yeah. Knock him out.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, he didn't deserve it. I know. I can tell you that.
I got you.
And I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I was driving home, and I was so I was mad, but I was also embarrassed. I was like, man, what are you doing? And I went home, and I lived with 2 guys from high school at that time, and I said, I got to play football again. Like it's not out of me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was at a point in my life where I had kind of gotten some solid footing under me, emotionally. And so I decided to, I called Jet Cornett. Jet was a tight end at Putnam City, and then he played at UCO. He was a real good tight end at UCO. And I called Jet, and I said, what do you think? And he said, I think you'd love it. It's a lot of fun. And so I called Coach Gary Howard, the head coach at UCO, and I said, can I come watch practice? And he was like, sure, absolutely. So I went and watched some practices. I went to some games, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do. But circling back to the OSU stuff, it's important. I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important for people to know, because there's other athletes that struggle with things, right?
Yeah,
with men,
absolutely.
and it's more out in the open now. It's more accepted now. There's more education on it and stuff. Like back then, like I said, it was just like, what's wrong with you? And so it's still something that affects me to this day. But I know how to manage it.
Right.
And it's not something that affects me daily. It's something that presents itself in extremely stressful situations. And I'm extremely stressful. Like once every, 7-8 years, maybe it pops up. And you just kind of have to lean on what you've learned through, through therapy and such, and manage it. And so that's the reason I left Oklahoma State. And it was painful. I remember I saw you, I don't know, you may not remember this, but I saw you and TW Steele, TW, at the McGinnis basketball tournament, our freshman year in college. It was the Joe Adkins, Estelle Lasser game at McGinnis. You remember that game? I was there with some buddies watching that game. And I ran into you, and you said, why'd you leave, man? And whatever I told you was probably not true. Because it was just easier. You know what I'm saying? And
I don't even remember
that.
But
So and that's, I'm glad we didn't have social media and stuff, because
Yeah.
that would have made it worse, dealing with that stuff. But it's tough. I see, I see some of the guys, and I know some of the guys specifically that, just think I was just a wuss, and that's fine. They can think that. But it was a process that I had to go through to get better. And once I did, and I went to UCO, I went there in the spring of '97. That's when I went to UCO.
Okay.
And I went through their off season, lifting and stuff. And the second day I was there, and it was hard. The lift, it was tough, because they're trying to. Everyone thinks they can play at UCO. You understand what I'm saying? Like everybody's like, I can play there, and you realize there's some dudes there.
Yeah,
and so they want to run some people off early in the semester. Get kind of cut the fat a little bit. And so it was hard. And I was sitting in the locker room after weight training the second day, and I had my mesh laundry bag, and the guys were just BSing in the locker room, and I just smiled, and I was like, I'm on a team again. Like this is what I want. Yeah. This is where I want to be. And I never looked back, man. And it was, and I got to play there for 4 years, and just had a great experience there.
Yeah, so. Man. And honestly, I actually, when you say people, said some things about you.
Yeah.
I never once heard what you said.
Well, that's good. Well, and it's always, you always think too from your own perspective, like, oh, he probably thinks this or they probably think that, and maybe they don't think about you at all, and so that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But
I distinctly remember you losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And when after that practice or whatever day that was, I didn't see you again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, what happened to John?
Yeah.
So I mean, we didn't have social media. We didn't have all of that extra stuff where we can communicate freely. And because I would have like, man, dude, what's up?
Yeah.
I mean, because we recruiting trip together. I mean, oil bowl and stuff. And so it was like, dude.
Yeah, and it's and I didn't, I didn't want to be found. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't because I couldn't tell you what was going on. I couldn't explain you or anybody. I couldn't explain what was going on, so it was easier for me not to talk about it.
Because one of the other things that I thought was, man, dude, we lost this good lineman. He's at UCO as an All-American.
Yeah. That's the one. I mean, that's if I have any regrets, it's that I didn't get to really test myself at that level. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a different level. There's dudes at the D2 level, but it ain't. I mean, there's D1, D2 for a reason, right? And so I didn't get to test myself in that regard, and so, but I will say this too: the night I came home from Oklahoma State, there was this girl that was my friend in high school. We hung out. We're married now.
Wow.
And that would have never happened.
Exactly.
So, God's got a plan, and it just, it's just one of those things that I thought this would be a cool opportunity to kind of talk about it, because it's just something I've kind of kept to myself for all these years, but.
I must say, I wanted to know. I wanted to know too.
Yeah,
what happened.
Yeah,
the real reason.
Yeah.
I just knew it was. We had some tough, hot days on that the hardest turf.
Oh, they were hard. Yeah, it was hard, and they were hard. I mean, practices were hard. I'm not gonna say they weren't hard, but it wasn't like I didn't go back to my dorm and say I can never do that again. That was too hard. I went back to my dorm and I said, "What is wrong with me? I feel like I'm dying. I can't eat an orange. I can't, keep water down. And as soon as I went home, I didn't feel better, but I felt different. It was a tough process, but it all. I'm glad that I got the chance to go back and play, and had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys that that were like on IVs, and like, I mean, not only you.
Yeah.
I mean, every day I came back into the locker room. Fortunately, I was never on an IV,
right.
And I mean, my teammate Willie, full body cramps.
Yeah,
I mean,
terrible.
everybody. It just sounded like a military a hospital at one point. Like,
I had a full body cramp at breakfast one morning at OSU. Like I stood up and I was just stuck there, and it was horrible, man. But I had, we had some of those days at UCO too, where it's still 105 degrees in Edmond if it is in Stillwater.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's
it's not that different.
So you're at UCO now, and so what was the transition as far as being on the team and building those friendships and bonds there?
It was awesome, man. It was like I told you, it was so fun to be on a team again.
Yeah.
And like I just felt it was nice to like put on a UCO football shirt and walk around and just feel like you're a part of something. You know what I mean? Track is fun. It's fine. And I love track. Did it at UCO too. But
And you had a good team.
it's different. It's different. And football is different. And so, but I'll say the biggest thing about UCO was that, you talk about like your journey, and my journey was just deciding to go play football again was the start of the journey, right? Because I thought, man, I signed with a D1 school. Like, I'm going to be fine here.
Yeah.
There were some dudes,
Had to
and
work,
I had to work. And my first year at UCO, I did not start. I played some, but I did not start. And I thought I was going to come in and, be a starter, and I wasn't. And now I weighed about 320. And in that, and then I lived with some guys, and I lived with some guys from high school, and we lived in Harvest Hills, which is at Expressway and Council.
Okay.
And I went to school at UCO. So it's a pretty good drive.
Yeah.
It was real easy to go, I'm not going to class today. Real easy. Okay.
Shoot, I was
It's
on
easy
campus.
when you're across the street, but
I was on campus, and I still found those times. I ain't going to class.
And I was not I'm not a drinker. I'm not like, I never have been. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But they were.
Yeah.
And I loved hanging out with them because they were fun and it was funny. And we had lots of people over. They worked at a restaurant, so all these restaurant workers would come over. So I lived their lifestyle without, the alcohol and stuff, but just hanging out. So I was up till, 3, 4 in the morning, and then it was real easy not to go to class. Yeah. And my first semester, I've never told this publicly either. My first semester, I didn't know the NCAA eligibility rules for grades. I just thought it was like high school where you couldn't have an F.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up with a bad GPA my first semester at UCO. Maybe like a 1.5, maybe like 2 C's and 2 D's. Now they were like finance classes, like they were difficult classes, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I'm at one of my roommates' parents' houses, and we didn't have cell phones. His phone rings, like his parents' landline rings. Yeah. And they answered the phone, and they were like, "John, it's for you." I pick up the phone.
Okay.
"John, this is Coach Howard."
Oh.
He's calling me at my friend's. Like he called my parents. They said, "Oh, he's over at so and so's house." Got their number. He said, "You're effing ineligible." And I was shocked. Like I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So I went to summer school, got my grades right. That was never a problem again. Yeah. Like I got that together and graduated with good grades and all that stuff. But the other thing I moved out of that house. I needed to get away from those guys. Yeah. They were good dudes, still friends. One of those guys is a pastor now. It's so funny. Okay. But but I had to get with people that were doing the same thing I was doing.
Change the environment.
And so I actually moved in with 2 guys on the track team in Edmond. And after that 97 season, I got down to about 290. And that's when things really started going for me. Yeah. So
man, you and I had the same my first semester at O State.
Yeah.
Man, I almost
regained
my eligibility.
Yeah.
And of course Marilyn Middlebrook. I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet. Yeah. And she's like a second mother.
Yeah.
But so if I wouldn't have made the grades, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met my had my young lady up, my daughter.
You'd have been at Kemper Military Academy,
man,
with all those dudes, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that was that what it was called?
There was
a military academy that a bunch of dudes had to go to.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But college is challenging.
Yeah.
And when you're playing football, it ups the ante a little bit because you spend so much time doing that. And so it took some adjusting, and that's what it took me some adjusting in several areas in my life. The test on that is, did you adjust and did you succeed?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can just fall by the wayside and
absolutely
and be a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any memorable games?
In '98, the second game of the year, we played Texas A&M Kingsville. Now, A&M Kingsville had won like 40 straight games in our conference. That's where John Randall played. Okay, Johnny Bailey won the Harlan Hill twice there, which is the D2 Heisman. And they came to Edmond, and we beat them 38-9. They turned the ball over a bunch. Like, we got up big at halftime. That was like the springboard for our undefeated season.
Okay.
Like,
did you get to win a championship, national?
So that year we finished undefeated, and we played them again in the quarterfinals. Okay. Texas A&M Kingsville. and we lost 24-21 in overtime.
Oh man,
It was a tough game. We missed a field goal with like 30 seconds left that would have won it.
Yeah.
So then we go to overtime and we lose in overtime.
Dang.
Fast forward a few months, the NCAA makes Kingsville forfeit the game because they used 23 ineligible players.
Dang.
But
What?
doesn't matter. We didn't get to go to the next round. So
Right. Oh,
yeah,
man.
so that was no fun. I mean, we should have just beat them, but we didn't. So but we had some good teams, man, and some good players. It was a lot of fun.
So off the field,
Yeah.
give me one of the funniest times that you've had with some of your teammates or your bros or whatever. And I need names. We need to incriminate some.
Oh man.
We need to-
Yeah. You first.
I can name a few. But
Yeah, I know you can. I probably know some of the stories that you might tell, but man, it's funny because I lived with track guys, and so you're with your football guys all day, every day, and so like socially, a lot of times I wasn't hanging with the football guys.
It's probably a whole different atmosphere with the track guys.
They want to have fun and stuff, but it's just that's who I lived with, so that's who I, hey, we're going here. You want to go? Yeah, let's go. So, when I look back at like the fun times in football, you have all the on-field stuff, but you don't realize how much accumulation of time you have traveling to road games, sitting in the hotels, getting ready for those games, sitting in the locker room waiting for practice, sitting in the meeting room waiting for meetings to start. And I don't know, I have some specific memories, but it's more vague about like all that time sitting around. I laughed harder than I've ever laughed.
Oh man, yeah.
We got in deep conversations, about things. Kind of a funny event that happened as we were going to a road game once. In '98, we were 6-0. We were going to Arkansas to play a school called Harding University.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And that same week, Northeastern State, the school up in Tahlequah, they had one loss, and they were going to Arkansas to play a Ouachita Baptist.
Okay.
We were on kind of a collision course. We were going to play Northeastern State last game of the season, and it was probably going to be for the conference championship, and it turned out that way.
Yeah.
We were undefeated at the end of the season. They had one loss, and we played in the last game of the season. We beat them 36-10, by the way. Yeah. So I had to get that in there. But we go to Arkansas, and we stop at a Western Sizzlin type restaurant to eat dinner, and we're eating dinner. Well, then this other bus pulls into the parking lot. And it's Northeastern, and they come in the restaurant to eat dinner. And they're supposed to work this stuff out where that doesn't happen, but the two teams are in there at the same time. So there's dudes that played high school ball together, high-fiving and talking and stuff. And then there's dudes talking trash, and like coaches had to kind of play security guard.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember, I know at some point, some of our more muscular dudes were just eating their meals with their shirts off, just like staring at the Northeastern
Like they're in prison or something. Like they're
like if you got your shirt off in a Western Sizzlin, like that's a weird,
something wrong. Yeah.
And so the story works out in our favor, in the end. But, that was just kind of an unusual. Like they wrote an article about it in the Tulsa World. Like it was like that kind of it was kind of funny. Yeah.
Showdown at Western Sizzlin.
Yeah.
Did you have a pregame ritual or anything like that you did that was?
The only thing that I can remember that I did specifically was I would always go sit out on the back steps of UCO's field house for a home game, or if it was a road game, wherever I could. And I would change my cleats out to fresh cleats. Like, we had the screw-in cleats, So I would always just change those out, whether they needed it or not. It was just like a fresh set of cleats.
Okay.
Yeah, man, and just try to calm the nerves,
I don't think I've ever heard that as a ritual. I mean, that's just changing your cleats out every game.
Yeah.
No matter if you needed it or not.
It was just go to it was just get by myself, and I was always outside somewhere, even if it was cold, like just the fresh, just breathe in the air, and kind of you could usually hear the music from the stadium, and just kind of start to get the atmosphere going, and that was kind of the first thing I did when I got to the locker room.
Cool.
So.
During your playing time, did you ever think that you'd be a Hall of Famer?
No.
You didn't?
No. Dude, I was so happy to be playing football. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be the best I could be, obviously, and I worked hard and I told you I lost all that weight after the 97 season, and then UCO doesn't have the organized, or back then they didn't have the organized summer workouts like a OSU would have, right?
Yeah.
So we were kind of on our own, but A few of us would work out at the Adams course in Edmond back
I
in the
remember
day.
Adams course,
yeah, and like some of those guys, like I think Billy worked there in the
okay.
summertime, and Trent Fisher worked there in the summertime, and Schwetman worked there. You remember Russ? Right. Yeah, I was just happy to be playing.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you, so we beat Northeastern State last game of the 98 season, and then we made the playoffs as the 1 seed, and we were ranked number 1 in the nation. Some Dr. Tony Cruz, who was our team orthopedic surgeon, and some other guys that were supporters of the team, they threw us a steak dinner.
Okay.
Like after practice on like Tuesday or Wednesday night that week as we were leading up the playoff game as kind of a celebration. So we go over to the University Center and we're having this steak dinner, and someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, offensive lineman of the year." And I was like, "What's up, man?" You know, I just thought
you didn't even know.
And and then somebody said, "Hey, congratulations." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Oh, they posted the all conference team in the locker room. You're the offensive lineman of the year in the conference." And I was like,
"Yeah,
quit, don't do that to me." Like, you know, I was stunned,
really?
Like stunned, not even stunned to be. I was stunned to make the first team. Like I was.
Okay.
It wasn't even I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah.
And so, so then people are like, "Man, you're offensive lineman of the year. You might make All-American." I was like, "What?" Like that's.
You're right.
I'm just trying to play.
Trying to get an education
and so
play.
I mean, at that point, then you start stacking accolades over the career. I mean, of course, I guess you think it's a possibility, you know, eventually, but it's not something you think about at all. That's something you think about when it's over.
Yeah,
you know, and you're like,
yeah.
now, you know, I got nothing else to do. Now I think about this, you know,
Yeah.
but not while I was playing the Hall of Fame is for old people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was too young to be thinking about that.
Okay,
we see those guys on the wall, and they got their afros and their 70s haircuts.
Right.
And I'm like, man, those guys are old, you know. So.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, what advice would you give? Like, if you, I mean, are you still around athletic? I mean, the football players? Pretty much?
I'm not super close to the players as the radio analyst, and I kind of stay away during the off season and just, especially now because there's so much turnover. And D2's always been that way a little bit because you get guys that, you know, that come from D1 for whatever reason, or you get guys that, I didn't play football for a few years, but now I want to try it again or whatever. And so your roster moves around a little bit. So I kind of just when the season starts, that's when I start studying the roster and stuff. So UCO's got some good athletes, man, and they've got a chance to, you know, to build something special there. You've seen the facilities. And I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be one of the better D2 teams in the country.
Right. Like, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think especially at the D2 level, you have a lot of guys who it wasn't their original plan, right?
Yeah.
Myself included. Yeah. And so, I've spoken to a few high schools over the years, just people that knew me, asked me to come talk, whatever. What I always tell them is, I tell them my story, and the point that I make is that it doesn't matter if you change direction. That's not changing is not failure.
Yeah.
Changing and not diving into your new direction with everything you got is the failure.
Right.
Right? So whatever you're doing, if you wanted to be a lawyer and now you're not going to be a lawyer, that's okay. That's not failure. But what do you want to do?
Right.
And what are you doing to make that happen? And are you, giving it your all? And so that would be my advice to those guys, is that it's not, landing at UCO if you were at a D1 school is not a failure. There are dudes that come in and they were D1 guys and they can't play at UCO. Yeah. It's because they don't put the work in that they need to put in, right? They think they're just going to have it handed to them. And so the failure is, like I said, not giving it your all. So I tell all those high school kids and even those college guys, like, you're not supposed to know what you want to do with your life when you're 18. Like everyone tells you, like, what do you want to do? But how can you know? Like you're not. I mean, no disrespect, you just don't have the life experience to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, so changing course is fully acceptable and, quite frankly, expected. But it's the effort that you put into it that dictates whether it's going to be success or failure.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because my oldest son, he got a scholarship to go play at West Point, Army, West Point. He had some troubles, some concussions, and he was at the prep school first.
Okay.
Because when he talks to mom, it's he'll open up to her. I want to come back, and I'm not feeling it and stuff like that. And, so when I finally figured out he wants to come back, just like you said, when you change directions, or you make that different choice, you better go into it full speed. And I told him, I said, you're not coming back unless you have a plan. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to play. Just have a West Point degree.
Yeah.
So, but when he came back, he had a plan in place. He went to OSU OKC first semester. Finally got a bachelor's at Oklahoma State, and then got his master's at Tennessee State. So I'm like, man,
yeah,
good job.
And he's probably doing fine now, right?
He's getting ready to get married next year.
Awesome.
Found his wife.
That's awesome.
And she went and got her doctorate at Tennessee State. Okay. So they're like, if that wouldn't have happened, he wouldn't be in a situation. And he'll be getting married next month. I mean, the next year. And so I couldn't be more proud of him. So, but it was that change.
It's hard in the moment. Yeah. My parents were very supportive when I came home from OSU. Yeah. But I know they were sad. Yeah. I know they were disappointed. They were worried about me too. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I don't mean that to sound cold, like, but but that's a big change. And then now who's going to pay for college now, right? Like, that's, that's free education is a free education. So, but it took me some time, and the onus was on me to show them like, hey, I'm going to bounce back from this. Yeah. And, I did.
How do you think your experiences in football, or sports in general, how did it shape your life beyond the field?
I mean, well, obviously, the whole experience at OSU propelled me to, seek some help that I needed, and has helped me every day since then. Sports teaches you a lot of great things about life, and one of the, I think, best things is just accountability. That it's, yes, your coaches are going to be pushing you, and your teammates are going to be pushing you, but ultimately it's on you. Are you going to work hard? Are you going to work hard when no one's looking? And you're only going to be as successful as the work you put in. And so when it was over, then work became my new sports. You know what I mean? It became the thing that, okay, now I'm going to strive to be the best I can be at this.
So now your playing days after UCO, did you have any aspirations in going to the league? Yeah. What happened? Did you get a chance?
So So my senior year at UCO, in 2-a-days, I tore my labrum in my left shoulder. And honestly, for like a pro career, I probably should have just stopped and had surgery, and just not played. Yeah. I wanted to get those honors again. I wanted to be a 3-time All-American. I wanted to play with my guys and be, and have that experience. Yeah. So I wore a brace and played that whole year. Okay. We weren't very good. We weren't as good my senior year. We were
You played your whole senior year with your torn labrum?
Yeah.
Man, okay.
So we were 5-5. Yeah. We lost 4 games by a touchdown or less. Like, it was a tough season. But so after our last game, we didn't make the playoffs. So our last game is like mid-November. Like 2 days later, I had surgery. We played on Saturday. On Monday, I had my labrum operated on. Right after the new year, I moved to Atlanta to train at a place called Competitive Edge Sports, which is just a draft factory, basically. The guys come to work on their combine, exercises and stuff. It's the one that the year before they trained Brian Urlacher, and they got all this pub because they got his 40 down to whatever it was. And actually, it's funny. I walked in this was in January. I walked into the gym, and the first guy that I saw goes, "Hey, can I get a spot?" And it was Urlacher. He had been a rookie in the NFL, that year, and was coming back to do some off-season training and stuff. And I was like, "Whoa!" But actually, Alvin Porter,
AP.
So Alvin and I had the same agent. Okay. And so Alvin was from Texas. Yeah. Or Louisiana. Texas. Yeah. He flew to Oklahoma City. I met him at the airport. We got in my car and we drove to Atlanta, me and Alvin. Okay. And so we stayed a night in Jackson, Tennessee, and then we were suite mates in a hotel while we were there training. But while I was there, I kind of rushed the process a little bit, and I basically tore up everything that I had surgically repaired in my shoulder. I just felt like being a D2 guy, this was 2001, like spring of 2001 or January 2001. Okay. So, I was 5-6 years out of high school. So I was an older guy. Yeah. I just felt like I needed to kind of go,
Yeah, you got to.
and I rushed it. And so I met with a orthopedic surgeon that works with the Falcons, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have it operated on again, and then you're not gonna be ready for camp because it takes, it's like 6-month recovery." Yeah. And I was like, I guess I'm done then, because I'm not gonna have surgery and try to make it in 2002. Like nobody's gonna talk to me then. So I was probably a bubble guy then. I would have been in a camp in the fall. Like if I had been healthy and gotten through it, I mean, I would have. I don't know if I'd have got drafted. I would have definitely been in a camp. But that's again another thing. Like though, it's like I didn't get a chance to test myself and do that. But I was there working out with guys. Jeff Backus from Michigan, who was a number 1 draft pick as an offensive tackle. There was offensive lineman from Florida State. They had just played OU for the national championship that year. And so that was my first real chance to get out of the UCO bubble and test myself with these dudes that were playing. And I fit in just fine. So I felt good about that, but then I got hurt again. So, yeah.
So with your professional career, you are involved in broadcasting with the radio and everything. And what was the other? You said you're in sales.
Yeah, medical device. I work for Stryker, which is a medical device company, and I just do. I negotiate contracts essentially between some major hospital systems in the middle part of the country and Stryker. So
now Billy does. I mean,
he's
all
in
of you
medical
guys
sales.
are.
Yeah, Billy's I think is in medical sales. I forget the name of the company he's with. Tim,
kind of the same.
Tim is been in medical sales.
Okay.
So
Brandon Whedon.
Yeah, Brandon works for Stryker now.
Yeah,
he just got hired at Stryker. So, and it's all former athletes, man. Like Stryker is. I mean, it's you go to the national sales meeting, they're like, that dude played quarterback at USC. That dude wrestled in the Olympics. That dude, like it's all former athletes. So it's kind of funny.
So in 2014, there was an award created in your name.
Yeah.
The John Fitzgerald Offensive Lineman of the Year award. So, I mean, that's got to be like at a college. There's an award named after you. I know you're humbled and
it's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. Yeah, that's a big deal. And the coach at UCO at the time called me and just said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. Would you let us put your name on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's great." And he's like, "I'd love for you to come to the banquet, every year and present it or whenever you can." And I was like, "That man, I mean, I'll be there." It couldn't. What a big honor, And so, very cool. That's just something that, again, you talk about like the Hall of Fame and stuff like that, like just stuff you never would think of in your life, and then you get a call one day and they're like, "We're going to do this." And I'm like, "All right."
Obviously, you led by example. You led in a way, and you did your history and resume as, you deserve it. All of these things that after you finish playing, like, the all-century and all-decade teams, the Hall of Fames, you're in the UCO Hall of Fame, Putnam City Hall of Fame.
Right.
Now, you mentioned the college Hall of Fame ballot. Tell me about that. Are you been inducted, or are you just on the ballot?
No, I'll never get into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I don't. I don't. I'm on the ballot.
Yeah,
I've been on the ballot since like 2014 or 2015, I think. So what happened is that to be on the ballot, you have to be nominated by someone, obviously, and they go through a whole process of there's a committee and they decide if you make the ballot. Mm-hmm. Well, David Garrett, who was my play-by-play guy at UCO for the first 9 years I did it, Dave is awesome. He was the play-by-play voice for the Dallas Cowboys the last time they won the Super Bowl. Like he's a real, he's good at what he does. And so Dave and I traveled up and down the roads for 9 years doing UCO games, and he took it upon himself to work on that nomination process for me.
Okay. And
he actually got Barry Switzer involved. And I've got some letters and stuff that are signed by Barry, and one night I got a text from Dave. I didn't even know what was going on. I was in Dallas working, and he said, "Hey, you're on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot." And I was like, "What?" And so I looked, we looked into that, and I've been on it every year. The bad news is if you're on it, it means you didn't get in. But if you're on it, it means they didn't take you off either. So. Yeah. There's a process they go through every year. Guys do get removed from it. I've been on it, the whole time. So, but there's a I'm in the divisional section, so that's FCS or 1AA, right?
Okay.
Down,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha.
So, but you compete against the guys, whatever their school was at the time. So like Randy Moss was in the divisional section because Marshall was a 1AA school when he played there, right?
Yeah.
So they usually put in one divisional guy a year, and there's 100 on the ballot. So I mean, and every year you're going to add. There's a player of the year in 1AA. There's a player of the year in Division II. They're going to be adding more guys than they can put in. So it's really mathematically going to be hard to get in.
Has coaching ever crossed your mind?
No, I didn't want to get into coaching when I got out. I've coached like my kids' teams through the years. I did some private shot and disc, coaching when I was younger, and I enjoyed that process. But it's just not something that I wanted to chase as a career path.
What does your wife do?
So she works for an oil and gas company here in Oklahoma City, and like I said, my daughter just finished her freshman year at OSU. She loves it. Yeah, just got a house up there, and renting a house for the summer and into next year. And my son will be a senior at Edmond Memorial, and he throws the javelin. Which is a weird thing because we don't do that in Oklahoma, right? That's not an event. So he goes to meets out of state. It's basically all we do, and he's pretty good at it. I'm not that guy that's like my kid's a bit like, but he's nationally he's pretty good at it, and he wants to throw in college, and that's what he's chasing right now. So,
and he's a wrestler as well.
He stopped wrestling. So so he started for the high school team as a freshman, and then he would have as a sophomore, but he dislocated his left shoulder in a preseason open tournament sophomore year, and so he was in a sling for like 6 weeks. And he was like, "What if that was my throwing shoulder?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, what if? It wasn't, but that could happen, And so he just decided, like, it's not worth it. I want to stay healthy. And I was like, all right. Yeah. So,
do you have any like personal businesses or anything like that that you like would want to promote or anything like that? Or
no, man. I'm nothing like that. I enjoy, working for Stryker, and I enjoy the radio thing. I don't tell anybody this. I'd probably do it for free, but they pay me. So. Nothing. I'm not an entrepreneur like you, man. I'm not out here. Yeah, but I'm excited about what you're doing, and like to support anybody that's trying to get their brand going. So the thing that's not fair about this thing is that we don't get to talk about you very much because you're the host. Like, who's going to interview you and talk about your career?
So my oldest son, that's what he mentioned. That he said, man. Because the show is called ROK Podcast with Coach Love.
Yeah.
He's also a coach.
Okay.
So he could be Coach Love and still do the same thing.
Go.
So, but I want to do it. I want to get all my kids together and interview at the same time. And we can just have a round table of.
Because we need a Sean Love, story too. Yeah. I got a whole list of people I want to hear from. I mean, there's all these guys we grew up with. Because I think it's fun. Somebody who's watching this who knows who I am, they're going to learn something about my, about my journey. And I think it's fun to learn about people's journeys. Right. I think it's fun because you think you have perceptions, whatever, and you probably don't. And rooting for, man, I'll tell you, I mean, I was a fan of you guys when I left OSU. Like, I was rooting for you guys. Like, I wanted you guys to have success, man. I loved watching you. Like, that freshman year, you guys beat Oklahoma. I was at the mall. I don't know if the game wasn't on TV or that's crazy to think, right?
Right.
But it might not have been. It might have been.
Yeah.
But I was at the mall with my girlfriend, now my wife, and I was listening. Like, you'd go into a store and they'd have it on the radio and scores, and I was like, man, I can't believe they beat OU. That's so awesome. And then, that '97 season, I was playing at UCO, but when you guys beat Texas, when you guys beat Colorado in the rain, and then going to a bowl game, that sounds like such a small accomplishment now because there's so many bowl games, but it was a big deal that OSU was going to a bowl game in '97 because things had been down for a little while. So I was so proud.
Every game has momentum. Momentum shifts and stuff like that. Some for the worse, some for victory and losses and stuff like that. Can you give me one time in your life that there was a big momentum shift for you?
It's been a series of momentum shifts, and we kind of did talk about all of them, a lot of them today. But it's you have to look yourself in the mirror and decide, okay, am I happy with my situation? And if not, what can I do to better my situation?
Yeah.
Because no one's going to do it for me.
Yeah.
And so when I was at OSU and I needed to leave and get some help, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew something wasn't right. So we figured, we found that pathway, and over time we got that right.
Yeah.
When I was living with, the guys that were working in the restaurant, and I was staying up all night and not going to class, at one point I went, I got to get out of this. I got to, I got to get, and then it was, I got to, lose some weight and get in better shape and become a better player. And then in life, like, it's the same thing. Like, if you're in a career, if you're in a job that you don't like, you have to decide,
right?
Okay, well, let's go find something else. What can, what else can we do, right? You have to. Nobody's going to do it for you. So, those were some major ones early on that I look back on as an adult and go, those were pretty, major shifts. But I mean, they're all everything. Having kids, getting married, I mean, it's all a momentum shift, and it reprioritizes your life and and puts different things in focus. But those are a few of mine, and I'm sure there'll be, many more.
Many more. Man, well, John, I appreciate you, man, and 3-time All-American.
I appreciate what you're doing. This is really cool. I can't wait to see, this thing go on for 1,000 episodes, and and talk to everybody that we know, and I just am honored to have been invited to come talk to you, and it's just good to see you.